freedom,
family,
world unity.
All these things and more will be discussed on this podcast.
Real stories, real people, real debates. On this podcast, we like to express our freedoms and talk about anything and everything goes.
Like freedom, family is important to us, and anybody that is listening, watching, or coming on the show as a guest star are all considered part of the greatest family to ever bless the solar system, the human race. No matter who you are, where you come from, you will always have a voice here on this podcast.
We like to flex our First Amendment, where all speeches and opinions are accepted for the right of freedom of speech. We have a saying we like to live by. Live life with eyes wide open. Being open-minded leads to true understanding of the world as it really is. Please, come, join us, and enjoy this experience as we embark on this journey of truth as we dismantle the subjective truth. I'm your host, Nick.
And I'm your co-host, Victoria.
And you're experiencing high consciousness.
Disclaimer. Any and all information on topics presented are to the best of all who is present in each episode's knowledge. The goal of this podcast is to bring people together and set the example we all wish to life, education, politics, history, business, etc. Any and all subjects can and will be talked and peacefully debated about on this podcast. On debate episodes, there will be a set rules of debate that hosts and guests alike must follow. We ask that you, the audience, like we ask of our guests, in the comments to please try to keep the language as clean as possible. We are a podcast for entertainment as well as educational purposes. Here, we are all equal no matter what race, age, or gender. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to High Consciousness.
I'm your host, Nicholas.
And I'm your co-host, Victoria.
And we are High Consciousness.
Welcome to another episode today, y'all. And today, we are going to go over Chapter 12, I think it is?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's Chapter 12. Last week was Chapter 11, the objective of the secret societies. And so the objective of the secret societies chapter kind of told us a little bit about Sir Francis Bacon and one of his works of, it was called The New Atlantis. And the New Atlantis was kind of, if we apply, Francis Bacon's theories and knowledge or whatever that's in those writings, it mostly pertains to America. And he was part of these secret societies that, Christopher Columbus and apparently even Sir Walter Raleigh, who is the founder of our own state capital here in North Carolina, he was also part of these secret societies as well, as the chapter goes on to tell us. And so the whole objective of the secret societies was to develop America into this philosophical empire where every man, woman, and child would have some kind of education where it was for the betterment of humanity. We would all have this education in the science, the arts, and in the languages and everything else, and in philosophy, which, in my opinion, in schools today, they don't really teach you much about, philosophy. I mean, they teach you, art, science, blah, 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 but mostly the history, and, we don't turn around and apply it. And the whole objective of the secret societies with America was to rise this philosophical empire and have us apply all these things. And in my personal opinion today of America is like we're taught all this, but we don't apply it at all, and we're not really taught to apply it. We're just taught like, here's the facts, there you go, and then we go on about our normal lives. So it seems like the objective of the secret societies did and didn't work with America turning into a prosperous nation, but we did not turn into that philosophical nation that our forefathers, or even Sir Francis Bacon and Sir Walter Raleigh, wanted us to be, or the secret societies that they were a part of wanted us to be. And how those things change today, we're not really sure, where things kind of turned one way or the other. But I guess, eventually along the way we'll figure it out.
Yep. So, our next chapter is Chapter 12, A Western Society's Western Culture 1,000 Years Before Columbus. Now, I wonder what civilizations they're talking about. There's been thousands upon, well, hundreds of different societies that have been around since before Christopher Columbus, but this one in particular is very special. In the Mexican era, the civilization that existed was the most advanced on the earth. The ancient Mayans had massive public buildings and observatories in at least 100 cities, and these were connected by broad paved highways. Rulers were elected by the common agreement of the people. The Mayans hold the world record for a continued peace of 500 years. This has been attributed to their having possessed no monetary symbol or currency for goods exchange. This was the first democratic state on a continent set aside for the perfection of the dream of democracy. Long before the coming of the white man, the spirit of human equality, human cooperation, and freedom of worship had flourished here. So we're going
here with the Mayas.
Yes.
Wow.
So we're going into the Mayans now. In the jungles of Yucatan, Guatemala, and Honduras are the ruined cities of his lost civilization, which flourished on the North American continent 1,000 years before the voyage of Columbus. Stuart Chase had the had made the observation that in the 5 centuries immediately following the beginning of the Christian era, the civilization of the Mayas was the most advanced existing on the earth. Very little is known of the Mayans, the origins, history, religion, or culture, because of the wholesale destruction of Mayan writing and historical records in the early years of the Spanish conquest. So, readers, like we said before in previous episodes, this book was written in 1944.
Yeah, this is 1944, and so at the time we didn't have a whole lot of information on the Maya and stuff like that.
We have a little bit more, maybe half more than what they had then. So we have a little bit more, better of understanding, but there's still a few more mysteries with the Mayans still.
Mhm. And when we dive into the Emerald Tablets later, there is a mention of the Mayas, at least like in the preface of this playlist that I found, that just so happens to, almost word for word read the copy of Emerald Tablets that I have, but it also gives a little more detail. Like, it's kind of crazy, and they talk about the Mayas and how Thoth and his priests all went to the Maya, and the Maya remembered the old ways and stuff like that. So there's your little cookie crumb for sticking around, because this is really exciting stuff. How even with the Emerald Tablets, it's going to round right back to even this right here.
So anyway, massive ruins of their buildings remain, and great stone tablets, but these are in a language as yet undecipherable.
Let me see.
Undecipherable? Or
undeciphered.
Undeciphered. From the physical evidence and the material remains, we know that the empire of the Mayas extended over a very large area, including at least 100 cities, connected by an intricate pattern of broad paved highways. Enough of the art of the Mayas has survived to entitle them to a high place in the sphere of creative aesthetics. And
creative aesthetics.
And their massive stones and plaster buildings prove that they possessed a well-developed knowledge of architectonics.
Architectonics. Good job.
Yes, thank you, baby. But so they had a language that was very undeciphered, and it was
undecipherable at the time. And nowadays, with our new technology and stuff, we've been able to decipher a little more of it.
Oh, really? So I wonder what we all have learned now.
Yeah, that's how we got the knowledge of what the Mayan calendar said. The whole 2012 is the end of the world, blah blah blah. And that's because that's where the Mayan calendar ended, and it's not really marking the end of the world, it's marking the end of an era. So there's like a new era that was supposed to be ushered in back in 2012, according to the Maya.
And they had advanced arts and advanced architects. I mean, over 100 cities, and all of them were connected through a highway.
That's really crazy.
A paved highway, like Roman style, but in America.
And as far as we know, the Romans and the Maya had no
correlation,
and they had the same ideas. Like, that's crazy. I mean, what if part of the Mayan structures, like, because there's something called Bimini Road, which is out there by the Bahamas, and it looks like these giant stones are, like, carved and were purposely placed here, potentially when the sea levels were lower. And we can prove that, well, simply because of coral. You find coral at, low sea levels, which we all know that coral lives at, kind of somewhere at the top. So that proves that, at one point in time, there was land where Bimini Road was. Or is today. So it was above water. So maybe that's part of one of those Mayan highways that potentially led to Atlantis, like the Emerald Tablets describe.
Yes, maybe.
So, yeah.
Maybe.
I wonder.
Hypothesis. I'm wondering.
It's a good hypothesis, yeah.
Yes. They had observatories for the study of these arts and developed a high, accurate calendar. Their written language, more complicated than Chinese, is a type of suited to the expression of exact knowledge and the most refined mental and emotional reflexes. So this language is so advanced, so...
It's more complicated than Chinese.
It's more, yes, that it's a suited for the type of expression of exact knowledge. Basically, when you talk this language, it's supposed to be like, so everybody's going to know what your intent is, what's your point, and where exactly you're getting at.
So is it kind of like as if this language is kind of like from the realm of like emotion or maybe thought? Because
both. It comes from the emotion because you're using all three. Using all two with this language. Because they use the exact expression of exact knowledge, suited to the expression of exact knowledge and most refined mental and emotional reflexes.
Wow.
So,
mental, spiritual, and emotional.
Yeah. So yeah. Three.
Oh, wow. So from the realm of thought, the realm of the spirit, and the realm of emotions is where that language, like, if you were to speak it, it's like, wow, that's really
interesting.
That's really interesting, and I wonder what a language like that really sounds like. I mean, we've watched, enough Chinese anime and movies and stuff because we love those B-rated movies. But, we've heard the language, and yeah, it sounds pretty complex. And, just with the way that Chinese sounds, and if this is something
Japanese too.
And with Japanese, with, all the anime we watch with Japanese, and, we love the Godzilla old movies and the new movies, and they're just so much better at Japanese, in my opinion. But, yeah, just hearing those languages, and those are, like, pretty complex, and it's, like, beautiful in some ways, the way that they speak, but it's just like, what would this language, the Mayan language, sound like? If it's more complex and more beautiful sounding potentially than that, then I wonder what it would sound like.
Only time could tell. Well, not time, but with these two new technologies, the AIs, and them having different softwares and like trying to re-say dead languages and stuff.
Yeah, because they recently have used AI to resurrect an old language to decipher old script that apparently told of like Jesus's childhood that everybody's missing. So, that's part of that year gap, those 20-year gap that he was gone.
I was saying in general that it was an AI that was literally taking all ancient languages and having them say it out loud and what it would sound like in today.
I'm sure there is. We just have to find it.
No, there is. I had them on my YouTube. I watched a few of them. They had Nordic Vikings, Sumerian, Aztecs,
Oh, I think I've seen that clip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're all like computerized faces, but they're saying the language though.
Yeah, that was pretty weird.
But anyway, so now we're going into the Mayans legends, or the legends in the Mayans, according to them. According to their own legends, the Mayans owned their cultural superiority to a mysterious old man who came out of the sea riding on a raft of serpents. Among various tribes, this man had different names, but he is best known by the title conferred upon him in the Mexican area. Here he was called Quetzalcoatl.
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 Quetzalcoatl. I almost said, yep. Sorry. He is said to have come from the east, from the land of the many-colored rocks. Quetzalcoatl.
Can you actually try hard? To
I am trying.
Quetzalcoatl.
I'm trying, babe.
Just say Quetz.
Babe, I'm saying it. It's the words. Okay, it's legitimately the sound of my voice is what makes it sound weird. Okay.
Okay.
I mean.
I know.
I mean, you're. I'm sorry, Grammar Nazi.
I did it again. I'm sorry. Continue.
I
did it again. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong.
Carried with him the symbol of the cross. His name means the feathered snake, or the serpent covered with the plumes of the Quetzalcoatl bird. The feathered snake taught the people of Central America of all of the useful arts and raised from a primitive state to one of an excellent civilization. He's instructed them in agriculture, architecture, medicine,
agriculture, and architecture.
Yeah.
I know, those two big words side to side.
Well, he didn't have to put them right beside it. He could have said agriculture, medicine, architect, science, language, religion, and statesmen. Having accomplished civilization of the Indian tribes, he ruled over them for a time as a benevolent priest-king. Then he returned to the shore of the sea, called to his raft of servants, and then floated away to the east, with the promise to return at a distant day to rule over his nation. When Cortez reached the coast of Mexico, the Aztec king Montezuma dispatched messengers of state bearing with them the plumed crown of Mexico. The trusting Aztec thought that Cortez was Quetzalcoatl, returned and was ready immediately to surrender the throne. The Mayan Empire was the highest civilization to be developed in the Americas. Also, it was the first great democratic state on a continent curiously set aside for the perfection of the dream of democracy. So far as we know, well, we're going to take a little pause right there. So, it goes forth on saying the legend of the Mayans was that a person rode on a rift of snakes that were feather snakes and taught the people how to build, how to farm, the science and the stars, and mathematics, everything that made them advance. And as they became masters in the arts, he left and then to return to a divine day.
And return, a distant day to come back and rule over the kingdom.
Well, and then we fast forward, here comes Cortez from Spain, and wearing the cross, and pretty much playing the part, because if you think about it, the Mayans never seen a horse before. Supposedly they ain't never seen a horse before, so when they saw the horses, the
road to El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
That movie points it out.
They pointed out a feathered snake, and they saw a horse that had a snout. Now, granted, a snake doesn't have legs, so I mean,
But well, I don't know where you're going with all that. There,
no, it's not. It's the
whole
concept.
point-
It's the concept of the Mayans surrendering their kingdom to Cortez.
Well, they saw the ship, and they were like, oh, instead of a raft of snakes, he must have come on, like, something better. And, Cortez was wearing the cross, and back in the day, the Spanish used to wear plumes on their helmets, especially when they were, like, commanders and captains. And so that's why Montezuma took Cortez mistakenly as Quetzalcoatl come back, because he came on, this big, raft that, looked something like a bunch of snakes put together, just flattened out. They didn't understand the concept of, wooden rafts and stuff like that. So, and then with the plume and the helmet, and then he was bearing the cross, which apparently Quetzalcoatl came bearing some kind of sort of cross. And they came from the east, which also, ironically enough, Cortez is also from the east. So
Yeah.
Cortez probably mentioned to them, oh, I am from the east. And so they were like, oh, your Quetzalcoatl returned.
Yeah, more likely.
So that's kind of the whole reason why,
Makes
as the book
sense.
stated there. That's what I gathered anyway.
Mm-hmm. So far as we know, the rulers of the Mayas were not hereditary.
Hereditary?
Yes. Hereditary. Which meaning that they weren't there's no royalty in the chain of command. There was no family or whatever. But were elected, excuse me, for life by a common agreement of the people. They seem to have governed wisely and to have fulfilled the classical requirements of priest-kings. The priesthood itself was powerful, but benevolent, given to learning, given to learning, and a pattern of the arts and sciences. The religion considered of a monotheism, that is, the worship of one supreme principle abiding in the sun. So, with that being said, how the Mayans did their election was that you get elected in for life. There was no terms. So, for life, and it was agreement in all of the people that you got voted in or elected in, and that you are benevolent, basically saying you're a people's person. You are always
benevolent means you are kind, you are caring, you are sympathetic, and you are like tuned into the people and their needs.
And
you're a good king.
You're a good king, and you're in one with the arts and the science and
the people.
And I guess the principle abiding to the sun, supreme principle, not because they
abiding to the sun, so the laws of the sun god.
Yeah.
Which the Mayans did believe in the sun god, and they had a temple of the sun god. Which, again, the Emerald Tablets will tell us about that later.
Next to deity, physical.
Next to deity. Peculiar.
Veneration was given to the feathered snake, who was regarded as a kind of messiah who suffered, died, and arose again. The legend of Quetzalcoatl was thus in parallel with the myth of the dying god, very much as in Egypt, Chaldea, Greece, and expressed by the early Christian church.
Ooh.
So the feathered snake, was regarded as a kind of a messiah or a dying god, very much as in similarities.
There's where our similarities are.
The Mayans were not a warlike people, and there's no support for popular belief that they were by nature cruel or barbaric. On the altars of their gods, they offered only flowers and fruit. It was not until the decline of the empire and its domination by less advanced tribes that human sacrifice was practiced, but then only on the rarest occasions. So they were kind people, enlightened people, not war or barbaric, and they didn't really do human sacrifices like that, like we all thought. And they weren't like the Incas.
The Incas would,
do the whole 9 yards.
throw a virgin in a volcano type kind of deal.
Well, they did do human sacrifice, but like I said, it was only on rare occasions. It is believed that the Mayans hold the world record for continued peace. They flourished as a great, powerful nation for 500 years without war in other tribes or eternal strife. The high civilization attained by the Mayans, by the Mays. Well, I can't believe he actually says Mays. I'm just gonna say Mayans.
Let me see.
It literally says Mays.
A high civilization attained by the Mays. Wow. By the Mayas, maybe?
Mays.
Just say Mayans.
Yeah.
Mayas. Maybe it's just a typo.
By the Mayas was due primarily to the law given them by Quetzalcoatl. You're doing it again. So long as they obeyed these laws, they continued to prosper. Unfortunately, we have no complete record of their legal codes, but we do know a few of the outstanding principles which lay by the root of their sentence.
So, one more time?
We do not have a legal code. Like, we don't have no, documentation or any way of knowing how they ran their legal system for them to keep this 500-year peace. But we do have clues to have an idea of their principles and how the legal system works. It's how I was getting at that.
So then we might have to do a little deeper digging and figure out, with today's research and technology, I wonder what else, from 1944 to now, what more do we know about how they kept that 500 years?
Because it's kind of like the Ten Commandments.
If there is something else about it.
It's kind of like, in the sense, like the Ten Commandments, because it says, so as long as they obey these laws, they continue to prosper. But unfortunately, we have no complete record of their legal codes, but we do know a few of their outstanding principles which lay at the root of their state. So
So we know the founding principles of what built their little democracy empire government type kind of style.
But we don't know
But we don't know how they maintained it.
Or how they kept it, not necessarily maintained it, but what exactly the right and wrong doings exactly.
How did they deal with thievery? How did they deal with...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that kind of cut.
Which, well... was it middle school in Miss Reese's class that we learned about the Mayas and how they dealt with thievery
Incas.
by cutting off the hands?
Incas.
That was the Incas?
That was the Incas.
Okay.
We never went into the Mayans.
I thought we did.
No. Just the Incas. Just the Incas. Because we did a whole thing about it. How they did mummify themselves and how their mummifications was way better than the Egyptians' mummifications and how they did human sacrifices.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's funny. We don't learn a whole lot about the Mayas. But we sure do learn a lot about the Aztecs and the Incas.
We don't, because there's so much mystery behind the Mayans still. Because they disappeared, too. It's not like they got slaughtered. No, they legitimately disappeared. Left. The Mayan nation was a collective commonwealth living under an advanced form of socialized order. They possessed all goods in common and shared equally in the benefits of their production. They possessed no money or monetary symbol of any kind, and it has been suggested that this lack of currency was in part responsible for their 500 years of peace. So, in a sense...
money's the root of all evil. They had no monetary system, and they contained they had 500 years of peace because they had no money.
And as some of our socialists would say, look, see, socialism did work, yeah, but there's no such thing as currency, though. So therefore,
in socialism, you still have to have currency.
Yeah.
With them, they didn't have any currency, and therefore, they didn't have anything to go to war over. There was no greed to go to war.
There was no classes. There was no rich, poor, or middle, none of that. It was literally just people.
Everyone was on the same level, literally.
And a priest king. Not legit, not like a legitimate king, but not a sincere king, a priest king. Like anybody can be a priest king.
Yeah, somebody who got elected by the people, whoever I guess is the favor of the village, you know. So, and then once that person dies, the next person that has the favor of the entire village, you know, no matter who it is related or not, they also get a chance at the kingship as well for life until they die, which is, you know, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of reflects how that's almost like our American democracy today, at least our constitutional republic. That's what we actually are, not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic, as we have come to a better understanding of that. When we get to the Constitution, we'll all have a better understanding as to why. But that's like, you know, with our president, it can be anyone in the United States could have a shot at the presidency. You could, I could, once we hit the age of 35, we could do that, or anybody else at the age of 35, you know, right now, they could go and run for the presidency next election year if they want. You know, anybody could. So long as they have been here 14 years a resident, and they're also a natural born citizen, and they've obtained the age of 35 years. Those are the only 3 requirements. Live here for 14 years as a U.S. citizen, or be born here and be 35. So there's a little nugget for when we get there.
To them, the whale was the symbol of death, and they never developed any form of mechanicalized industry. Each gave a part of his goods to maintain the state, and this contribution was employed to build public buildings, parks, schools, and places of public sports. There seems to have been no poverty and little, if any, crime. No buildings have been found which suggest prisons or other places of confinement. The Mayas were hospitable, kindly, gentle, and industrious. Their cities were beautiful in every way. They were public-spirited, well-governed, and according to the order of their time, highly educated. The religious temper of the people can be gathered from remnants that still survive. It's common to all the Indians of the Americas, or I should say, it's common to all Native Americans, that religious intolerance is utterly beyond their comprehension. They look upon each man's religion as his own particular belief, and if it suits his needs, it deserves the deepest respect of all other right-minded men. Thus, we see that the archetype for a generous and enlightened way of life is part of the American continent's common inheritance.
Ooh, so even the Mayas were like we are, where it's freedom of religion. Even the other Mayas might have had, you know, among them different belief systems.
It's whatever you...
So, that's awesome.
And their way of thinking is whatever helped you graduate to spiritual enlightenment. And just the American continent's common inheritance.
Yep. The Mayas had freedom of religion. That's part of our Constitution. Which, as we learned in Chapter 3, is, you know, the legitimate golden fleece. That is the embodiment of human civilization's immortality, and even, you know, the unalienable rights given to us by either, you know, God the Source or the gods, you know. So, to the Maya, it was you know, many gods, and they had the freedom of religion. And over here in America, I mean, it's mostly God, but then you also look around and, you know, we have Muslims, we have Jews, we have Christians, we have pagans, we have atheists, we have Satanists, we have all these different kinds of religions, and we're all free to, you know, worship that religion as we wish and as we desire. And again, like the Maya, so long as it leads us to a path of enlightenment, that's totally fine. And that's what our forefathers had in mind when they wrote that into the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. The religious temper of the people can be gathered... Okay. Thus, we see that the archetype for a generous... It is well to note, in passing, that many of the simpler virtues practiced by the Mayas were shared by other tribes that inhabited North and South America. Although the North American Indians never achieved the high culture reached by the Mayas, all lived according to a democratic tradition. The members of all tribes took care of their aged, provided for the widowed and the fatherless, and severely punished in the rare instances when some tribesmen attempted to exploit another. Tribal government was invested in a council of the older and the wiser, and all matters relating to the common good were submitted to them for arbitrary.
Let me see. Arbitration, yeah.
Arbitration and solution. Crime was almost unknown. So, I guess you could say like our Senate is just a bunch of old dudes and old girls, but the difference is that they were a lot more wiser for their solution, and
they were a lot more wiser for their problem solving to solutions.
And in all matters related to the common good were submitted to them for arbitration and solution.
So let's look up what arbitration means real quick, just so that we know what that word means.
Yeah, you're good.
Computer's running slow today. There we go.
Maybe it knows.
Arbitration. Definition.
Maybe it knows.
Arbitration. The use of an arbiter. Okay, that's not a good one.
What's it say?
Arbitration is to. It's like modulation or mediation. Okay. It's a form of alternative dispute resolution to which the parties work out the distributed issue without going to court for it. Okay, so it's like they all have a council meeting over it, and they all, decide whether or not, together, and whether or not those ideas or solutions are practical, I guess is what that means.
Yeah, because as most tribes were nomadic, they had little opportunity to develop intertribal points of views, and so there were considerable shifts between tribes. But even in their warfare, North American Indians respected their valor and developed chivalry to a marked degree. The first League of Nations was created among the Great Lake Indians of the American Northeast. First 5 tribes and later 7 combined under the leadership of the brilliant Native American leader Great Rabbit, whose life has descended to us in Longfellow's poem
Hiawatha.
The length of the 7 nations was originally intended to be defensive, but also useful in settling interpretable disputes, and resulted from the simple discovery by Aboriginal minds that one lived longer, more safely, and more happily if disrupts among people were solved by operation rather than open strife. Hiawatha. She's easy. That's how I mispronounce it. Native American word.
It's Hiawatha.
Hiawatha.
There you go.
Hiawatha doing?
Oh, you're terrible. You're terrible.
You're the one that's laughing with tears in your eyes.
I'm dead. I'm so dead.
Both literal and figuratively speak. Ah, ha, ha, ha.
Okay.
Hiawatha.
Just reread wherever you were before or after Hiawatha, okay?
Hiawatha.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
He sent it to us in Longfellow's poems. Hiawatha. Okay, I'm done. The Incas. Okay. The Long League of the Seven Nations was originally intended to be defensive, but also useful in settling intertribal disputes, and resulted from the simple discovery by Aboriginal minds that one lived a longer, more safely, and more happily. Its disputes among people were solved by arbitration. Oh, I can never get that word.
Where is it again?
Arbitration rather than by open strife. So basically, they wanted to keep everything indoors, hush hush. We're gonna let the court. We're gonna figure it out, rather than trying to take you to court and charge you for it.
Well, that's a more peaceful, ethical way of doing things.
The Incas of Peru are second to the Mayas in the building of empire in America. Inca communities were also cooperative, and many of these villages still survive in the distant and less accessible highlands of the Indies. These were the only civilized communities in our land that never learned that there was a world depression beginning in 1829. Yeah, people talking about there was a depression. They're looking at them like,
huh?
What's a depression?
What's that?
Depression, huh?
A world economic depression. What's that?
I don't see no depression. I got a lot of food over here.
Wow, if that's not a freaking culture shock right there. As the world is in a Great Depression,
there's a tribe
this tribe that lives all the way up in the mountains and takes care of themselves and grows their own food, doesn't have a monetary system or anything, and is cut off from the rest of the world. They're like, wait, there's a world depression going on? Huh?
What's
that?
It's a world? I thought it was just this.
There's a whole other world out there? What?
I thought this was just it.
Wow.
Rooted in the American continent is a long and distinguished tradition that points towards ability for leadership in the post-war world. Along lines of cooperation and international points of view, the democracy established by 13 colonies in 1776 was not the first American democracy, at least 2,000 years before the coming of the white man. The spirit of human equality, human cooperation, and freedom of worship flourished here.
And that's the end of the chapter.
Mm-hmm. And that's it, folks.
All right, stay tuned for chapter 13.
Bacon secret society is set up in America? Question mark.
Ooh.
The question mark. I was generally asking a question, but that's the name of the chapter, though.
Yeah. Bacon secret society is set up in America. So finally, now we get to
the nitty gritty.
To the nitty gritty about Lord Francis Bacon here, and he's been teased in so many different chapters, and now finally, we get down to the bacon. We get to the pork of it. I'm sorry, I'm terrible. I know that was really corny. So, if you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. And if you like this video, please give us a like, give us a follow, and a subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. We are now on Truth Social, Facebook, Twitter. Yep, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Truth Social, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah,
that's about it.
That's it. So, give us a follow all of our pages, stay tuned, and keep updated with everything high consciousness. And we love you guys. And remember to live life with eyes wide open. Thanks, and have a great day, y'all.
And by the way, comments, questions, please, questions.
Leave them down in the comments. We're always looking. We're always watching. Come on, y'all. We know you want to start a conversation. Let's go. Let's go, America. Let's have a conversation.